Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world. It is once again time for the internet's favorite movie list podcast. It is 10 to 1. I am one of your hosts, Josh, coming at you live from the East Coast. And joining us, as always, from the middle of the Pacific, it's Jen.
We are about as far apart in time zones as I think we could get without actually going over the date line. So
Yeah, I was going to say, you're practically in tomorrow.
it's a no, you're practically in tomorrow. I'm in your past
Yeah, well,
because
if you move like 5 feet to the west, you're in tomorrow.
yes, but since this isn't the Rocky Horror Picture Show, yeah, I won't be doing that dance. So I'll just have to stay in the past.
Maybe you will do the dance.
Yeah, okay, we'll leave that
When
for
we, when
another
we
day.
average 1,000 listeners per episode, Jen will do the time warp.
Oh, hmm, I'll think about it. Yeah, okay.
There
I'll
we
think
go.
about it. Yeah.
So that's something to look forward to. And wouldn't you know it, tomorrow the show blows up and everyone's like, "We gotta see this."
Then we'll know why, won't we?
Yes, we will. It's all because of you, Jen. Speaking of you, how you doing?
Better. I, we've been off air for a couple weeks because, unfortunately, I have been. I don't even. Yeah, I gotta look up where this came from. I don't know why we say sick as a dog, but it feels appropriate here. I have been sick as a dog, just feeling awful. But with the help of copious amounts of sleep and generous amounts of antibiotics, I am on the mend. So thank goodness.
We were missing for the lineup so much, people started to think we're ruined by WB.
I am so sorry. Um,
See what I did there?
just yeah, yeah. I feel like so much has happened since the last time you and I talked. I mean, like the world has literally changed.
Yeah, a lot of things happened. Like the I don't I it, it's been rumored for a long time, but it finally happened. They were saying it's going to happen, and it finally did. And yeah, the WWE was sold.
Hmm. I heard that. I heard those rumors. I knew that was coming. I thought about you the whole time.
Crazy though, and it's not even the craziest part of the story. Vince McMahon has a mustache.
What do you
That's
think is
nuts.
what do you think's going to happen?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
No, nothing's going to change
Okay.
because, in fact, it's probably going to revert back since Vince McMahon is now in a position of higher authority um, than he was just a week ago.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I guess that's good. You know, sometimes the more things change, the more they stay the same. So,
Yeah, pretty much. And I think,
unlike,
and unlike,
well,
unlike,
I was just gonna say, unlike our lists that like change every single week,
yeah, yeah,
even though it's still always 10 movies.
that's true. I was going to mention something that I was wrong about,
Oh,
and something that might have made you happy.
okay. Tell.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yes. So uh, interestingly, uh, uh, no spoilers for anybody, but yeah, it's awesome. So go see it.
I saw,
It's super awesome.
the trailer, and everything about it said to me it'll have its niche audience, and you know have a decent opening weekend, and then that'll be that. But no, it managed to not only show up and take the number one spot, but it beat you know a John Wick movie.
John Wick. Yeah. Let's hear it for the nerds.
So yeah, they came out. They were ready to roll their D20s and you know set the initial. And I've only played D&D once.
I'm mildly surprised, but not really, because I feel like the whole exercise of this is, being a nerd, being a geek, being a whatever. It's mainstream now. You're allowed, so you know, no shame.
Although I did play a lot of Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Oh, did you?
I did.
New World of Darkness or Old World of Darkness?
Like New World.
Well, yeah, New World would have been Apocalypse. Old World would have been what was Old World? Werewolf the um. Oh man, I'm a fake fan. I totally forgot it. What is Old World of Darkness? It's something. It's Werewolf the um something. Oh man. Okay, I totally forgot now. But anyway, yeah.
You
Or
know
whatever it
what's
is.
great about all of these things?
It's gonna come to me in like 5 minutes, and I'm gonna go like right in the middle of your explanation for a show. You're gonna go, what? And I'm gonna go, I know what it is now. So
I look
anyway,
forward
yeah,
to that.
yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I was just gonna say though that the cool thing about all of these things, kind of coming into the mainstream, is that it's no longer just designated to a cult following.
Yeah, and that, you know what, that is really cool. I have to say that this is I think one of the coolest things that's happening, just in terms of people. It's the Forsaken. What am I saying? Werewolf the Apocalypse was the old one. Werewolf the Forsaken was the new one. Okay, see, I knew my brain would like kick into gear. The Forsaken is the new World of Darkness. The old World of Darkness is the Apocalypse, with all the metagame stuff about the end of the world and all that. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the one.
I do really like the fact that things are so much more mainstream now, and I'll tell you why. Much like movies that, sort of have like a little bit of a, not even a little bit, a big kind of cult following, no pun intended. Um, it, there's a lot of really good, fresh, and super interesting content that's out there that if people just sort of like let their guard down a little bit, about entertaining different ideas they might like. And I feel like the more mainstream some of this stuff goes, the more people will try it, the more people go, oh, this is what everybody's all jumping up and down about. And rightly so. I mean, absolutely rightly so. There is nothing better than getting a group of your friends together, gathering snacks, picking up some dice, getting yourself a good story going, and heading out on some kind of adventure. There is something so awesome about that, and it's different from every other experience out there. It's just different. It's, this whole idea of questing is phenomenal. And this, I have to say, the movie did a really good job of kind of capturing the essence. I mean, it was silly in some places, but it was really entertaining and fun.
Well,
I
I hope
suggest.
to
I
check
highly
it out.
suggest it.
I just dropped something.
You what?
I dropped something to the floor. There was a loud bang.
Oh no. That
So
I didn't notice. I was so busy, singing the praises of Dungeons and Dragons that I didn't even notice. So yeah, that's how good it is.
as I was saying, I'm glad it's no longer relegated to just a cult following. And speaking of cults, Jen, why don't you tell us what we're talking about tonight?
All right. So this actually, I've been wanting to do this list for a while, and I feel like I wanted to do this list for a lot of different reasons. One, because um, some really good movies have these really awesome ideas in them, and cults is definitely one of those really off the rails kind of ideas, right? You can go from, end of the world apocalypse kind of cults to cults around monsters. Um, there's different like religious orders that develop into cults. Some of them are in space, lots of really cool things. And I was struck by how many movies I've seen that sort of play on this theme. And some of them, they walk right up to the line without saying it's a cult, but it's a cult. And I kind of love that, because it kind of leaves you, the audience, sort of like in that mode of, is it or isn't it? So our movies this week, 1 to 10, are about cult. They feature cults, movies that feature cults. Doesn't have to be like a whole movie of a cult, or no documentaries here, no, sort of, we're not going into Waco or anything. We are absolutely looking at the cults that are put into movies. All of mine are fictional. I did not choose any, like real kind of cult movies, because yeah, that wasn't quite as exciting. But I love a good fictional cult. So that's what our 1 to 10 is tonight. Did you have a hard time making this list?
Hard time? No. Um, I did make some last minute adjustments today. So if
Did
we
you?
had actually gone on the air last week, I would have had quite a different list.
Oh, that's interesting. You have to tell
It's
me when you get there. You'll have to tell me which ones.
I well my first one. Well, I should say my 10th one was the one that I threw out because, well, it didn't seem fake enough.
Oh,
Should I just go ahead and tell you that?
yeah. Say it.
Okay, I was going to be a little bit cheeky with my number 10, and as we talk about what is a cult, what designates a cult. Well, in the 70s, there was what many parents considered to be a cult, as their children joined what they called the Knights in Satan service.
Oh.
Yes, my first one was going to be Detroit Rock City and the Kiss Army. But I was like,
Huh.
it's a fictional scenario, but maybe it's too, real to be displayed on this list.
Okay. So you decided to go with the more fictional version of this too.
Yes, I my number 10, I totally replaced Detroit Rock City and have a different number 10.
Not bad. Okay. I mean, I'm kind of glad, because all of my movies are definitely very fictitious. And I feel like most of them will be movies. Some of them I think will be movies that people have heard of, but some of them I think are a little bit uh they're a little more niche. But I do have plenty on my list that are sort of mainstream movies, so I'm kind of excited about it. I feel like it's going to be a good list.
And I don't think I
So
have anything hidden, if you will.
I have some that I doubt people will have heard of, but they should. Like, they're good. So
Well,
so
then,
let's hope.
which one of us should start this off?
Oh, go ahead. Be my
All right,
guest.
I guess I will. Well, my number 10 on this cultastic episode of 1021 is, well, it's a movie that's all about the facts. Just the facts. I'm talking, of course, 1987's Dragnet. I know when it comes to these particular movies, people are like, "Oh, what's the deal with all the remakes and the reimaginings and the blah, blah, blah." You know what? Dragnet does not fall under this category. Dragnet is a continuation of the classic TV show. And I know what you're thinking. Josh, wasn't Dragnet the TV show kind of serious with all the Kurt nodding and monotone nature of Jack Webb? Well, the answer was yes. Yes, of course it was. And they turned it into a buddy cop movie. Brilliant. Tom Hanks, Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd plays the nephew of Joe Friday, and shares a name. And they work for Frank Gannon from the original TV show. Now, how this ties into cults? Well, they're kind of tracking down a cult. That's the big mission. The by the book Friday and his not loose cannon, the streetwise partner, Strebeck. They partner up to take down this cult, which was actually put together to kind of raise the crime rate and discredit city officials and things like that. So are they trying to take over the world? No. Are they trying to sacrifice anybody for any reason? No, not really. They're just there to raise the crime rate, and they succeed until those offbeat, shouldn't get along detectives got on their case and foiled the whole thing. Yeah, spoilers for Dragnet. They win. Now, is this a good movie? Sure. I mean, it's not the best movie in the world, but if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch, especially if you're. Well, I was going to say, especially if you're a fan of the TV series. And then I started thinking, but then again, you kind of have to be in on the joke to enjoy Dragnet, the movie. But number 10, my number 10 is Dragnet, as the detectives go against the people against goodness and normalcy, also known as Pagan.
That's a good choice. I hadn't even thought about that movie in a really long time. That was a good choice.
Thank you. What is your number 10?
Okay, my number 10, starting out a little bit weird here. Back in, I think it was 2018, I watched a movie on Netflix called Apostle. And it really had a profound impact on me. I went back and watched it several times because I felt like I was missing some things. It's very good. The end will really shock you. There is basically, it kind of goes like this. There's a guy who used to be a missionary, and he's looking to find his sister, and he's trying to extract his sister from what he thinks is just a group of people. Well, I mean, a group of isolated people. I mean, look, he should have known. But turns out they are a cult, and not just any cult. They are a cult hiding a let's just say there's a terror on the island. And honestly, this is one of those movies that like starts out a little bit sort of boring, and you're not sure where it's going to go, and then all of a sudden it picks up and you're like, oh no, I see where this is going. This is crazy. It is kind of like if you've, well, I won't even say another movie because that's probably a movie that's on somebody else's list. But anyway, this movie is definitely well worth watching. The performances in it are amazing, but more than the performances, there is something that is sort of it's like the situational aspect of it where the sets are designed perfectly, the costumes are designed really well, and the atmosphere around this place is just so pitch perfect to make it a little bit scary, a little bit sort of mysterious, but also there's always like this threat of being so isolated that it that it really makes you feel like there's a lot at stake here. So the movie is called Apostle. It's actually still on Netflix. It takes place in 19 early 1900s, like 190 something. Um and it's absolutely amazing. It also takes place just outside of Wales, so everyone has super cool accents. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. So that's my number 10. The cult is I can't really explain what the cult is, because if I explain what the cult is, then I kind of give away what I think is like the best reveal of this movie. So I'm just going to say it is a cult. Hang in for a little bit, and once the story gets going, you will be rewarded. I promise you. So, number 10, Apostle.
And once again, you say a movie I haven't seen, and I have to instantly add it to my watch list.
This is an easy one too. It's Netflix. It's not really long, and it goes by so fast. Like it's a it feels like the things once things get going, you at least I did. You just kind of like lose track of everything. You get so engrossed in it. So
It's like Gareth Evans.
yeah, it is
Directed
Gareth Evans. Yeah. Mhm.
the Raid 2.
Mhm.
Kind of wish I'd come up with a list to talk about those movies at some point. And good director, Gareth Evans.
It's really atmospherically well done. I mean, and especially for a Netflix movie, I mean, like, it's got some stuff going on, so good job.
Well, now seems like a good time to remind everybody, if you want to take a look at what our lists are, you can go to the 1021 Letterboxd at 1021pod. That's 1021pod on Letterboxd, 1021pod, and you'll be able to check out the results of our lists and find out where these movies are playing on streaming, if they're streaming, and you know check out reviews. Letterboxd, give us money.
Give us money in the letterbox, please.
Well, my number 9 is a movie that we've talked about. Let me scratch that. A movie that I've talked about on a couple of different occasions. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to just keep it short and sweet. I'm going to just kind of focus on that cult-like aspect of what's going on in the movie. I'm going to be talking about for my number 9, 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's again one of those things that you don't necessarily think of when you think cult, but when you kind of break down the idea that there's a central figure that everyone kind of idolizes, that um, they create a space to separate, the members from friends and family, kind of keeping them centralized so they think they are each other's family only, and the fact that they are sort of radicalized to the point where they're willing to put on pajamas and fight giant turtles, at an order. Not to mention the abuse that they believe is deserved and things like that. All of that makes me think, yes, the Foot Clan is a cult because they have all of these things. You see, April's boss uh, has a son they got mixed up with in this, and her boss, he's trying. You could see he's actually trying. He cares, about his kid. But teenagers being teenagers, going to be a little rebellious, and he just fell in, to the wrong group. And for some reason, he didn't quite see that people were looking out for him that weren't, ninjas. But because of this blind devotion by everybody to the Shredder, he again fell into that trap of thinking that this was his family, even though he had a good one. It wasn't until meeting the Turtles and hanging out with Casey Jones that he began to understand that family, is supposed to look out for your best interest, not make you fodder for protection against somebody that's supposed to be protecting you in this dynamic. But that's the thing about cults. You do things you wouldn't normally do. You believe things that to those outside make no sense. And the Foot Clan, I believe, is a very good example of that. So that's why Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is my number 9.
Nice. And honestly, I never would have thought that was a cult. So that's very interesting. I feel like that's kind of cool. New way of looking at it for sure. For me, definitely different way of looking at it. Okay. My number 9. All right, this one. Okay, this one's a little bit weird. And there's kind of always with older films, there's always a little bit of story that sort of needs to be explained before you can launch into exactly what the film is about. Although I'll tell you the title. The title is called The Seventh Victim. Now, The Seventh Victim, basically, it kind of went, the film treatment itself went through a number of revisions before they settled on the fact that it was a cult, he's looking for his sister, and originally it started out as a murder mystery, but they rewrote it, and as they rewrote it, they turned it into, nope, uh it's actually a girl who is, I'm sorry, not the guy, it's the girl that's looking for her sister. And she's in, of course, Greenwich Village, because that's where all the weirdos are. I mean, I'm saying that with sarcasm. That's just like the running joke and always has been forever and ever. Um, and they kind of made this movie as, if you don't know what this movie is, you'd be totally within your rights to say, "Hey, I don't know what that movie is." Cat People. Now, Cat People was, oh God, look up Cat People, and it's definitely worth a watch, but it's not this movie. But this is supposed to be the prequel to Cat People. So the cult is basically your run of the mill, if that's even a thing, devil worshippers. The reason that this movie gets a topic on my list is because it is rare, rare, rare. It's horror noir. And just for being that, it gets some pretty high marks for me. You can tell that it was set to sort of be a murder mystery because of some of the things that they do, and especially the tighter shots in the apartment. I mean, it really feels like they're playing at a who done it. It's exceptionally fun to watch. It's not I mean, it's a B movie, but weirdly, I feel like as time goes by, we become a little bit more forgiving of movies that maybe weren't quite up to the same par as other movies of the same time, because we're not living in that time, so we're not really accustomed to it, and it does get some good marks for some other things. I mean, it's noir, it does have great lighting, but more than that, it's got fabulous dialogue. There's some really good sort of intros and some really good um monologuing that goes into this, which is very satisfying. Um, the other thing that I really liked about this movie is it was kind of unafraid to be a little bit over the top. And I feel like that's exactly what it needed because it wouldn't have succeeded if it took itself too seriously. I will also say that their doctrine, the entire doctrine for the cult, is about as nihilistic as they come. And hey, as a Gen Xer, that was yeah, kind of sort of struck a chord. It was kind of neat. Anyway, it's a good movie. It's a great cult movie if you are looking for that a different type of niche, you know, something that is a little bit different than your standard kind of cult flicks, where they seek to sort of explain the cult a lot more. In this one, you don't get a ton of explanation for the cult. There's some, but it's more like, well, what is the cult doing, and how does this tie into her missing sister? It's actually quite good. So, I do recommend this movie. It's just, you know, don't expect Academy Award winning performances. It's called The Seventh Victim. It was released in 1943, I think. I think Cat People was released in 1942. So, you know, you get Cat People out, and then this kind of became the prequel to Cat People. So, highly recommend it. The Seventh Victim. Just don't be mad when it's in black and white, you know, because I feel like people get mad when something is in black and white. Like, why didn't you tell me it was black and white?
Seventh Victim, right?
Hmm.
1943. Okay.
And the only way I know to watch this is, you know, like, you can rent it like from video on demand. I don't know any place that I have never even seen this on TNT. So
Available to rent on Amazon and iTunes.
there you go. See, video on demand. Yeah.
There we go. All right. I guess let's see. My number 8.
Number 8.
Okay, let me I'm gonna give you this tag real quick. Crime is a disease. Meet the cure. If you already know what that is, and you're chuckling, yes, it is Cobra from 1986.
Oh God. Oh no, not this movie. Okay.
Great reaction so far. Now, mind you, I first saw this movie when I was like, I don't know, 9. Well, things were a lot different when we were younger, weren't they? And it's a Stallone movie from the mid 80s. You know what that means. Body count, love interest, stoic hero. It yeah, it's an 80s action flick with Stallone that, strangely enough, didn't become a franchise. It's one that I always enjoyed, mostly because of the visuals and the, as weird as it might sound, the audio with the clanging, especially that opening sequence. It's a very cheesy film. Let me tell you about it. Sylvester Stallone is Cobra. And that's kind of his code name in this. He's part of this group known as the Zombie Squad. The kind of a last ditch effort to handle a situation. And what the higher ups don't know is that they know there is a string of violent attacks happening across Los Angeles. That's what they know. They don't know that they're all connected to this cult called the New World, and their ideology is to kill anybody they deem weaker than them. So they would be the ones, stronger genetics would carry the human race forward by culling the weak. And initially, they're like, oh, it's just, one serial killer that's doing all of this killing, and it turns out it's like this small army of people operating with the same MO. And of course, the hero figures this out, and of course, because nobody believes him, he kind of has to, go at it on his own. And of course, he is going to, take it to them and kill all the bad guys, because in the 80s, that's just what your hero does. Rules of engagement? No. Following the law? Mere suggestions. No, the 80s were a time of shoot first, never ask questions. And that's Cobra in a nutshell. It does have a pretty cool ending for the big bad, though. So if you want to check it out, by all means, that ending alone, that final shot of him taking care of the bad guy is, I think, it could be worth mention, or worth a viewing, I should say. Yeah, my number 9, Cobra versus the New World. And I'll say this: when it comes to motivations of cults, I think this one it's unique, because when you think cult, you don't normally think, oh, these guys are doing what they're doing for, Darwinistic reasons. They think they're improving the human genetic code. It's weird, super cheesy, but for some reason I'm into it. My number 9, Cobra.
I of all the Sylvester Stallone movies that were made, Cobra is probably one of the ones that I like better. So it has that. Because I'm okay. Story time. Ding 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 ding. I used to work at the Four Seasons, and I live in Hawaii, so I got to meet kind of a lot of famous people. And for the most part, most famous people are just famous. They're just regular people. Um, you still get starstruck a little bit, but they're just kind of cool people. Um, Sylvester Stallone, let's just say, left an impression on me that was not great. It just, wow. Hmm. I don't want to say anything like overly mean, because I don't think he was being overly mean. It was just ridiculously childish and hostile.
So you say
So,
you're kind of a tool? I
uh,
admit, in the 80s, I was kind of a tool.
oh my god,
Possibly the 90s, too.
yeah, possibly the 90s too. Yeah. Let's just leave it there. But it had a huge impact on how I was able to actually enjoy his films later. And I will say that I did actually really like the newest one, where he plays, the superhero who's actually, the bad guy of the superheroes. Um that it's on Amazon. It's actually really good.
I haven't
Um
seen it.
it's really good. It's really good. But notwithstanding, of all the movies that Sylvester Stallone made, I think Cobra is probably one of the most interesting. Again, because of the cult, because the cult does give it sort of this like um other layer, a new dimension of storytelling that makes it interesting, that gives it a little bit of bump up flair. So it's not just a kind of action rock'em sock'em, who's got the biggest guns and you know biker stuff. No, it's not. It is actually, I think, a little bit more, dare I say, slightly intellectual. There's a little bit more going on there than just the standard action hero movie stuff. So it's for that. Yeah, I totally give him credit. That was good. Just had to mention that. Okay, story time's over. New story. My number 8. Okay, my number 8 is a movie called The Brethren. No, it's not called The Brethren. It's called Silent Hill. Um, but it should have been named The Brethren because it had so much less to do with actual Silent Hill and so much more to do with the actual cult. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've never played the video games and you have only seen just the movie, they still totally make it about the cult, which is known as the Brethren, and all of their sort of crazy antics, which include witch hunts and high priestesses and shame on the sinners, and oh my god, it is absolutely nuts over nuts over nuts. But I, so the movie Silent Hill is, universally people just panned Silent Hill. I don't exactly know why they panned it so badly. It's not a bad movie. It just isn't the movie that the video games would have you sort of believe that it could have been. I mean, there's a lot to the cults in Silent Hill. There's a number of them as a just there's at least two main, the Order and the Brethren. There are definitely priestesses, but there are also like different kinds of priests and different people with sort of supernatural abilities that can do things which, I think you're clearly supposed to understand are given to you by the cult itself. The religion gives you some powers. And and then there's of course the whole thing with Alessa. It is a crazy, interesting, fascinating, very tangled kind of story. And whenever these things happen, movies often just can't quite get everything that they need to get in. So people tend to go, oh, that was terrible. But I don't actually think that Silent Hill was terrible. Um, so the Brethren in Silent Hill, which is the cult, is basically they're fanatical, right? They are absolutely um passionate about everything that they believe. And it's infuriating, of course, if you don't understand the cult, because nothing that they say really makes sense. And when the world turns, that is when you move from the regular reality to the Silent Hill reality, you you understand a lot more what's happening. So, there's things that happen before the sirens go off, and then there's things that happen after the sirens go off. It's really fascinating. Um but the the way that the Brethren kind of work are, they set sacrifices. They create sort of an environment through which repentance can be um can well, where people can get a kind of repentant soul. But oftentimes it's done by burning people. And of course there isn't very much left to you after they've burned you, so yeah, there's that. This I have to say that, like, this gets really convoluted because the games of Silent Hill are really wide and really started to take on their own sort of mythology. But the movies, they didn't they focused a little bit too much on, well, I shouldn't say they focused too much on, but they focused on Alessa and they forgot, or they just sort of didn't kind of tailor in the bigger backstory of how big the cult was. Although in almost every single Silent Hill movie that you see, you get a glimpse a little bit further of both of the cults. And I think that I'm trying to think of who um my favorite um I'm trying to think of who my favorite character inside of the cult is, and I'm not sure. I mean, partly I want to go with just the whole pyramid head idea, because that to me is like the most emblematic um icon of everything. But I also kind of feel like every single one of the characters in Silent Hill that has a representation in the game, it's important. They're all so important because they all play like different roles of being guardians of different areas, or safety people in different places. Or it's just really cool. Anyway, I'm rambling, but this is a fun movie. I had a great time with it. I've always loved Silent Hill, both as a game and also as a movie. The first movie is probably the better one. The one that has Kit Harington in it, that wasn't so great. It was kind of off the rails. It was weird. Um, and I highly suggest the first one, which was a 2006 release, I believe. So there you go, Silent Hill. Um, if you've seen Silent Hill, Josh, you'll have to tell me what you thought about it.
I have not seen Silent Hill.
Did you ever play Silent Hill games?
I've played some of the first one.
Okay.
I was more of a Resident Evil guy.
Oh, okay. See, okay. See, this is a good. I think this is a good contrast. So, where Resident Evil uses the T virus to be sort of the catalyst for everything, Silent Hill sort of weaves in a separate mythology for some supernatural powers, which make things just as terrifying, I think, as Resident Evil, but for very different reasons. I wish somebody would do a better Silent Hill. In fact, honestly, of all of the video game adaptations, I feel like Silent Hill could be one of the best video game to TV series adaptations, because if you could take your time with it, there's a lot to explore in Silent Hill. So it gets I can't believe it only got my number 8 choice. I mean, I feel like it should have been way up there, but the other ones on my list are like, I don't know, they're so much more exciting to me. But Silent Hill definitely captures my mythological intellectual intrigue.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if it's available anywhere.
I feel like Silent Hill I just saw recently on something. Maybe Roku channel?
That's possible.
Oh, I guess Pluto TV. Pluto TV. Okay. I knew it was on Roku. I only get Pluto TV on Roku.
Okay. Well, where am I at? Number 7?
And it's one of the few movies where Sean Bean doesn't die at the end. So, the movie's got that going for it all by itself.
Well, that just defied all of my expectations.
Number 7.
It's like he has one job and you didn't let him do it.
Yeah, and in this one, yeah, it's quite fascinating actually. It's kind of fun. Kind of fun to see him not die.
So, you remember how the Foot Clan kind of made you go, huh?
Yes.
Can't really think of that as a cult.
Yes, indeed.
Well, then prepare for your mind to be blown.
Uh-oh.
Because my number 7 is...
Is it VeggieTales? Because...
Yes.
Yeah, I can see how they could totally be a cult.
It is VeggieTales.
Just had to throw that out there.
It's not VeggieTales. A 2006... No, it's not a 2016 movie. It's a 2022 movie. It's a new one. Newish. And it's called The Menu.
Okay. I mean, it's stretching, but okay.
Well,
I think I can see it.
After all, it's... Bless you. It's a there's a whole cult of personality thing going on as everyone literally idolizes the chef. And they're there to die for the chef. Spoilers. Whoops. But yes, that's they go to this event, and for the most part, they're they're on board with what they were notified was going to go on, and they're there anyway because they want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of this moment with this man. And when I thought of that, my mind instantly went to, things like, the Branch Davidians or uh, Heaven's Gate, where they're making this pact to, just not be alive anymore. But yeah, I know it's not as cut and dry and, rewards in the afterlife kind of thing as the real life stuff. But just the idea that everyone is doing what they're doing just because everyone showed up because of this, albeit reluctant, leader of the food or the foodie movement. Because when it comes to the kitchen, he is not reluctant at all. He is domineering. He is adamant. He is the chef. But the idea that all these people would worship him is kind of the reason why he gets pushed over the edge in the first place. So I freely admit I'm, went a little bit loosey goosey with, some of the finer details when it comes to, being in a cult. But it was everyone's blind worship of this man just because he makes good food that reminded me of what devoted cult members are like for their cause, whatever that may be. That's why I made the menu my number 7.
I mean, it's a little loose. It definitely plays with the idea of cult a little bit, but cult of personality is no less cult to me than anything. So, I mean, you don't have to necessarily have a rigid set of rules for everyone to follow as much as you just have to have a code of conduct which is rigid by itself. And I think that
Which he did.
Chef definitely, yes, he definitely had that. And also, I have to give 2 gigantic thumbs up to the menu for being one of the most sarcastic and frankly sardonic films that I have ever seen. It is so black in its ultimate messaging, and it is just a big I mean, I won't use colorful language here, but I'll just say that, it basically says to all of the people who crowd foodie culture out and make it something that it isn't, hey, screw you all. And it does a really good job of it because it really kind of brings forward the absolute inane things that are presented to us as food and food art, and our reaction to it is sometimes so blind, and I feel like that's exactly what this movie is calling out. It just calls out this. The other thing is, hey, in case you guys didn't know, I also do a food blog called Movies Make the Meal, and at moviesandmeals.com, look, I am such a terrible photographer when it comes to photographing my food and whatever, It's all in the, hey, here's the idea. But the food images in this movie are so excellent. And in fact, I found out later that what they did was they had shot the entire film and then went back and decided no, they needed shots of all of the food. And they did the shots of the food separately and then interjected them or, edited them back into the film. I give them full credit for that because it turned out amazing. The
Mm.
food looks unbelievably good. So, yeah, big hats off to them.
One more little thing. I will say this film, it gives us something that I think pretty much any movie featuring a cult needs, and that is an outsider's perspective. Because if if we didn't have that, yeah, it would still have some shock value, but it would be, I think, a little more difficult to kind of immerse yourself, because if everybody is just looking at this kind of a normal,
Hmm.
then it becomes unbelievable, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, in almost all of our movies, I feel like this will be the constant theme because this is basically the storytelling methodology for telling a cult story. You almost have to have an outsider in every single one of your cult stories in order for the cult to become a facet of the story, because without it it's just normal everyday life to the people who live it. So
Hmm.
it becomes less sort of it becomes less it's not just that the shock value is less, it's that it's just this is what we do. Mando, this is the way. It's not, there isn't anything amazing about it, it's just this is the norm. And when you have an outsider's perspective, you're allowed as the audience to go, oh my God, that is unbelievable. And oh, the sense of terror that can happen because it's not supposed to be mundane. And I have a feeling all of our films will sort of have that. So
Yeah,
I know
someone's
that
got to say this is weird.
right, somebody's got to say this is where, or at least discover the long hidden secret that has been keeping the cult together forever and ever and ever. Um, and as a matter of fact, my next movie does exactly that.
Ooh.
My next movie is called The City of the Dead. Now, this movie is one of those really interesting back in time 1960 movies. The movie isn't back in time, just saying it takes place in, takes place sort of in the 1960s. But all the people in this movie clearly have been around for a very long time. It takes place in this place called Whitewood, Massachusetts. And a woman, sort of in a similar way to the other movie that I had, um, back in The Apostle and even The Seventh Victim. Um, Somebody is looking for uh, information. And now for this one, the thing that becomes interesting about this is it sort of plays on this idea of investigating witchcraft. And a history professor basically tells his student to go and visit Whitewood. And, she'll get all this information on witches and witchcraft. And he tells her little little things that are supposed to be interesting enough for her to take the bait and go there. So she goes there, and she finds this place called the Ravens Inn. uh it, One of the most interesting things I think about this movie is clearly this place is, the camera is telling us that this place is like on the edge of reality. And we can tell that because there's a number of scenes where she'll be out walking and the mist will rise around her. And it really, they did a great job of sort of visual cues about where we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to perceive where she is going. So when she's out and about and there is no mist, we know that she's sort of in the regular world, in the ordinary world. And then when she is out and about and she has clearly crossed over, we can see all the mist behind her. Usually, those are the times when something or someone is kind of pointing her in a different direction. Um, Really, really good idea. It stars, or I should say co-stars, Christopher Lee, who of course is like, iconic with horror. He's just, I mean, other than playing Saruman in Lord of the Rings, Christopher Lee was just absolutely a prolific actor in all kinds of different horror, but he has kind of this almost Shakespearean affect about him. So his stage presence is extremely powerful. And every scene that he's in, he just dominates it. Um, so the cult in City of the Dead is dun dun. They're all witches. But there's a satanic altar in the basement of this place. Nan hears things, hears different sounds, goes to investigate, discovers that there's some strange things happening here. And I won't give away the ending, but in the end, let's just say that the professor from the beginning is not what he seems to be. I did, for as simple as this movie was, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed being along for the ride with Nan because I felt like, not only, again, do we get something from the outsider's perspective, but hey, she loves this topic. This is like her thing, it's her jam. She's totally into this whole witchcraft thing. And all of a sudden, she is actually in the middle of witchcraft terror. And it kind of made it a little bit like, yeah, okay, the stakes are a lot higher than just somebody who's, like an Indiana Jones who's just caught up in something and has a rational explanation for it. These people definitely defy rational explanation. The other thing that I really liked about this is, again, it's black and white. And there's something about the black and white format that just seems to make shadows longer, bright patches brighter. The mist, when it comes up around Nan, is that kind of contrast that just makes you feel really creeped out. It's really a good film to watch late on a Saturday night. Again, it's called City of the Dead. And I believe that this one, I'm trying to remember who it was directed by. But it wasn't anybody too famous, but it was somebody who was doing a lot of stuff during the 60s. So, City of the Dead. John Llewellyn. John Llewellyn, Moxey. Moxey. That's who it was. So that's my number 7 choice.
Of the Dead.
City of the Dead. And this was released in 1960. Yeah.
Okay. Again, not one that I've seen.
And this one I know is available because I just saw this recently. Where did I see this? I may have seen this one on Pluto TV as well.
I think it's more than likely.
Pluto TV's got a great catalog of stuff.
Yeah, surprisingly so.
Really, I'm actually always their format for finding things is a little bit difficult, but the actual catalog is pretty breathtaking. There's a lot of stuff in there.
So there is a 2019 version. Is that in any way related?
No, that is totally different. The City of the Dead from 1960 is a completely different movie.
It's on Tubi and AMC Plus. City of the Dead.
And in fact, I think City of the Dead from 2019 is a like a, I don't, what can I say? Like a, um, I mean, it's documentary, but it's like more than documentary. It kind of gets into some of the deeper facets of actual death. You know, of people that actually work with death every day.
Does the human beings feels generally as fascinated as fearful before death and yet without back of dying? Workers at the cemetery of Palma del Mallorca in Spain face this harsh reality every day, so they have found a way to deal with it. Alternate title: Ciudad de los Muertos.
There you go.
So I'm guessing it's in uh, Spanish.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so you're going to be disappointed by number 6. I know this already. And I'm going to keep it brief, even though I don't think it's been mentioned on 1021 before. But I'm still going to keep it brief because a lot of the talking points I've already kind of hit up with a different movie. And with everything that's, let's just say if I had another day, I might not have had this movie on my list, but I still think it falls under the same category as, I don't know, a Ninja Turtles or something like that, or the Menu, where it's a lot about the personality of the leader and the organization. I'm talking about 2005's Batman Begins. What cult is in Batman Begins, you say? Certainly not the Gotham Mafia. As takes up most of the space in the movie. No, I'm more concerned with the League of Shadows and the Ra's al Ghul. In most every other medium, he's sort of obsessed with immortality and has the Lazarus pit to keep him going. No, not in this grounded world of the Batman. I think that was kind of maybe a teeny weeny bit of a mistake there to not give us, Raish's ultimate motivations here. But again, it falls under some of the same categories of a charismatic leader that has his followers fight wars for him while he sits a little comfortably, maybe hobnobbing with an out of touch billionaire billionaire orphan, I should say, and says he's going to train him to do good when in fact he was just trying to train an heir. But train he did, and a Batman was born. So I guess in a roundabout way of saying Batman was part of the cult. Yeah, I've had better arguments, to be honest. Like I said, given another day, this might not have made the list. I'm not upset that it's on the list by any means, because I stand by the fact that this group has cultish tendencies, especially when it comes to the kidnapping and brainwashing and things like that. But just to keep it short, Batman Begins is my number 6. League of Shadows.
Good choice. Yeah, I can see that. I can totally see it.
It's not
as culty as I would think, but I can definitely see the through line.
And who doesn't like the headline of Batman versus Cult, right?
Right. I mean, true. That there's no. Who else would you want to be handling that? That's super true.
Don't worry, I got this. Hold on. I said all that stuff, and not once did I go, I'm Batman.
Yeah, we're all super grateful. Happy? I don't know. Whatever.
Well, I have these images to throw up on the screen, and if there was ever an appropriate time. So yeah, what's your?
Well, my number 6 movie, I think, sort of is like, I mean, I don't know if it's the same, but it's a little bit of a stretch too, sort of, because my number 6 movie is Peter Jackson's King Kong, and the cult specifically in Peter Jackson's King Kong is the cult of the giant King Kong. I love the way that they portray basically the cult of the giant gorilla. And I guess they just call them Skull Islanders. Um, it First of all, it makes me really happy to see them add so much more of what the cult does and what is happening there than some of the other King Kong movies, where I feel like I almost feel like it feels a little bit racist in some of the other movies, not intentionally, just it just feels weird. Like there's the Islanders, but then you never really sort of understand why they are so tied to King Kong. And I also really love Jack Black's character. I'm sorry, not Jack Black's character, Adrian Brody's character, explaining to everyone that if you take King Kong away, it's like taking away their god. And I loved that, because I have to say that I've often thought, as like a follow up, what happens to these people? Do they, how do they even function afterwards? There's no God anymore. Kong is gone. And the cult aspect of the movie kind of carries you all the way through. And it also, I have to say that this is also one of the most fascinating things I think about this movie that there is. That the people who worship King Kong, that yes, he provides them protection, but I always felt like, but they have to be experiencing everything that is happening on the interior of the island as well, right? I mean, like, their lives must be absolutely crazy difficult. And I wish we actually could spend more time with them instead of so much time on the interior of the island. But I really feel like they are underappreciated, and um, we could use a little bit more from the Skull Island people as the cult of King Kong. I don't know exactly what else I would put in there, but the little bits that we get make me so happy, because it really fleshes out the entire movie. It makes the movie feel different. And I think that that kind of matters. It matters a lot. And so, yeah. So, I mean, this is a really super short one, but King Kong gets my number, what are we, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, gets my number 6 pick, mostly because what little we get of the Skull Island cult is just so story worthy. I absolutely love it. So, King Kong. Peter Jackson totally gets my vote. Adrian Brody, Jack Black. How do you go wrong?
Well, what can I say? I'm out here in left field, and look who joins me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did not see that one coming.
Really?
Yeah, completely took me by surprise.
Did you not see it as them being a cult, or was it just you just hadn't thought about it?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you should definitely see it. You would absolutely love it.
I love that glowing recommendation.
Jack Black, Naomi Watts, Andy Serkis is in it. Uh, Adrian Brody, uh, Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son.
Love Colin Hanks.
just really, really good. Everything about this is good. Everything from the boat captain who's like just trying to keep his ship basically from sinking into the ocean. And like everybody's got their own sort of plane of existence happening in this movie, and everything feels about as high stakes as it possibly can the moment that they are in peril, the moment that they get to the island. It just feels like everything ramps up to, DEFCON 2 and stays there. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Of course, Peter Jackson would, I think, do a good job with King Kong. I feel like the only other person that I would want to do a King Kong movie would be Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Right? I feel like that would be also a really good match. But, look, Peter Jackson, absolutely. And also Peter Jackson is in this movie as one of the gunners. So that was kind of cool.
Okay. Well, I guess it's time for the top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5. Going at you. My number 5 has the coolest cult in film. That's right. I said it. And they're not even a group with a name. They're just a satanic cult. But they're all so cool. No, seriously, they're super cool. I'm talking about the teenagers that perform satanic rituals in The Babysitter. What's cool about this group of people, you're wondering?
Yeah, what is cool about them? Tell us, Josh.
Well, other than, being, I'd say, aware of, certain social context, like when, he pushes, I'm sorry, I don't really recall names at the moment, but pushes the one girl and hits her in the chest, and she's like, "Did you just touch my boob?" Absolutely wonderful that, as he's, fighting for his life, he's also backpedaling, going, "No, I did not mean to do that." Or when Stephen Amell, is chasing the kid down to kill him, and they run into the kid's bully, and he's like, "Yo, little dude, you got to stand up for yourself." The guy that's trying to kill him is like, "Dude, stand up for yourself. Be a man." It's like, this is, these guys are cool because it's not like they want, bad things to happen to this kid. In fact, it seems like they kind of like the kid, but, witnesses and whatnot. It just seems like they're only trying to kill the kid because of, circumstances. And of course, there's B, the name I do remember, Samara Weaving, plays the babysitter, and ultimately turns out to be a really awesome babysitter. Because even while, yes, they need their little satanic ritual to go through for, if I remember right, their favors from Satan. At the end of the night, she's still like, "Well, I'm a babysitter. I got to protect this kid," and does so. So, to me, that's very cool. Now, yeah, and they're just the cool kids from school, I guess. So, yeah, it all adds up to this is a cool cult. Mind you, they're doing awful, awful, awful things, but in the yearbook, even if their group photo was of them stabbing the one guy in the head, it would still be captioned, the coolest kids in school. It's The Babysitter is it took me like 3 years to watch this movie because I don't know, I saw the trailer. I'm like, yeah, it's just a movie, I guess. And one day I had that urge, that feeling you get where you see a movie, it's been there long enough. You're like, you know what? Fine, I'll watch it. And I did, and my head was blown back. I was like, whoa, that was a lot of fun. And it took me so long to watch it When I looked it up, I was like, and the sequel's coming out next week? Oh, talk about timing. But yeah, The Babysitter, the satanic cult versus like a 12-year-old. And that is my number 5.
Nice. Also, I did really like that. That was good.
And also, more along the lines of a traditional culty thing.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I
Well,
can bring it.
my number 5, I have a feeling that you probably will have seen because of who is involved in it and how they're involved in it. It probably is no secret that I'm not a huge Kevin Smith fan, but this particular movie, and especially because of the subject matter, definitely it gets high marks from me. It's called Red State. Red State sort of runs the gamut in both genre and mood. It starts out, sort of like lighthearted, almost like, a teenage lampoon kind of movie. And then it quickly becomes uh horror. Best way to say it. Horror, like, body horror. Kind of scary. And I think this movie also sort of it does a good job of being genre bending, right? Because there is some comedy in it, but it's kind of dark comedy. There is a lot of sort of, those moments of teenagey angsty stuff, but it's really kind of a dark film about hatred and uh, groups that hate. It is definitely very, it's a biting sarcasm on, or I should, maybe not a biting sarcasm, it's a biting commentary on groups that are hate groups and how easy it is to trap people within them. It I feel like he did such a good job of capturing those particular facets to cult like behaviors, getting people, indoctrinating into something for very easy. I mean, sometimes it's as easy as offering sex, which is sort of what happens in the beginning. And sometimes it's just the lure of something that makes you feel like you belong, even if you really don't believe in the core ideals. And you quickly go along with the core ideals on a number of different levels, simply because you want to still belong. Um, I really did like this movie. I like the fact that in this movie, you really don't know who's going to survive. You just don't know. It's not. It seems like it should be one way, but it's kind of not. I mean, this movie is definitely very. This movie is definitely very. What's a good word for this? It is. It's unpredictable, but it is very much kind of in your face with its commentary. So 2011, Kevin Smith, huge story behind the production of this movie, which I won't get into now, but it's a big story and it's kind of cool. It's absolutely worth watching. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Have you seen it?
Have I seen a Kevin Smith movie?
Have you seen Red State?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. And what did you think of it?
All I'm going to say is crossover alert.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
But where will it be? Where will it be? Well, I can't answer that just yet because it's not my number 4. My number 4, I stole.
Okay.
From you.
Oh.
2 weeks ago.
That's kind of the good stealing. I like that kind of stealing.
Now, the thing is, when we were talking about, what would make these lists, and you were like, you don't have to use this as an example, but Kalima. I'm talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Good choice.
It's Indiana Jones versus a cult, much like Batman versus a cult. Uh, there aren't many people that you would want on your side more than a guy like Indy, who sees child slavery and human sacrifice and magic, and just you would think you would phase him. Not so much. Uh, because he has that brain that's kind of processing, everything that's going on. Because he has he's a professor. He's seen a bunch of stuff. Those teenagers are nuts. He knows what it's like in the trenches. Okay, mind you, he was a professor in like the 40s, but still, it stands, right? Because I don't care what you tell me. Teenagers are teenagers, no matter what decade you're in, and they're always getting up to something goofy. So he takes that experience, sees somebody getting their heart ripped out, and he's like, it's Tuesday. Now, one of the things that really freaked me out about this movie when I was a kid, and even makes me a little squeamish to this day, two scenes in particular, of course, the feast. Uh, just, cutting open the snake, monkey brains. Not something I want to, check out while I'm eating a big tub of popcorn. And of course, there's the insects. Oh, God, the insects. Not a fan of bugs. And I think this is directly the reason why they still give me insects, give me the heebie jeebies. That's why I will never go to Australia, because they're big enough to kill you. Anyway, enough of a tangent. This, this cult is kidnapping children, putting them to, I guess you could say that, putting them to work. I believe it's safe to say that, yeah, I'm just going to say it. Harrison Ford and Academy Award winner Short Round. And yeah, that happened. And that's a good thing, by the way. Fighting cult members as a sort of dynamic duo, if you will. Wonder where that inspiration was taken from. Not important. Anyway, long story short, too late. Indiana Jones rescues a bunch of kids from the cult and, saves the day. What can you really say about Indiana Jones? Everyone's seen Indiana Jones. There's not really a whole lot of room for commentary because it's just so ingrained into the film watcher's brain. And quite frankly, I imagine if you're listening to Jen and myself, you're well into this, movie watching culture. So, Indiana Jones. We all know Indiana Jones. We know Temple of Doom. And it is, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies with a hero fighting a cult ever. Period. End of discussion. Unless Jen wants to add something, then we'll continue the discussion a little bit. But other than that, yeah, that is why it is my number 4.
No, there's nothing really to add to that except I had to look up if the cult was real. Do you remember that? Was I with you when I was looking that up?
You were not.
Do you want to know if the cult is real?
See, if you say yes, then it negates it from my list. So ignorance is bliss.
Okay. I one thing that I really liked about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with the cult part is that it offers the really cool idea that you can wake up from the cult, and they do it viscerally with a couple of different parts where wakes up the the Maharaja with fire once, and then he wakes up Indy with the fire afterwards. And I mean, that's such a great sort of pivot point of the story where it's like it's the exact metaphor of waking up from the dark sleep. The sleep that doesn't let you see what you need to see. I freaking loved that. I've always loved that. I always thought that that was such a great kiss on the story. So good job. Very good job.
Thank you.
Um, okay, my number 4 is a movie that almost everyone that I know has at least heard of, even if they haven't seen it. It's called Midsummer. Midsummer is there's not a lot that I can say about Midsummer that people have not already all either said or that people don't know. But if you don't know what Midsummer is, it's a group of students head off to what is supposed to be sort of like a um for some of them anyway, like a retreat. Okay, we're gonna go head off to this place and it's gonna be great. We're gonna be able to maybe do a little bit of thesis work. um it's supposed to take place in someplace in Sweden. And the retreat itself, in the beginning, I mean, there's so much I could say about this movie. I do not have enough time. But in the beginning of this movie, there we're dealing consistently throughout the film with trauma. We're dealing with not being able to let go. And that ends up being one of the biggest overriding thematic pieces of Midsummer. But Midsummer is at its heart about a cult, a complete cult that specifically preys on people who obviously are going through some stuff, experiencing life with a lot of difficulty. And the cult kind of picks up on each person's sort of individual weakness and then plays on it in a way that incorporates it into the ritual. And by the time that you get to the end, it's I mean it's there's so much that's going on in Midsummer that by the end you absolutely feel like you have been through an ordeal, like you have been through something life altering, life changing. It's on the face of it, some parts of it are very terrifying, and other things are so dramatically human that it kind of reminds you that when we all live together in groups like this, really crazy rituals begin to form around the very mundane things in life. It's quite spectacular, actually. Visually, Midsummer gets really high marks, and it's up here on my list at my number 4 position because it is stunning. Visually, it is absolutely gorgeous. And the sound editing in Midsummer is also just unbelievably good. I mean, there are parts that make you feel like you want to forget it, but you almost can't because you can hear that strange discordant music in the background. It's just really well done. I also One of the other reasons that I really like Midsummer as a cult movie is because this is sort of like the cult where you remove everything from when you go here, you no longer take your who you are as a person necessarily with you. It's there when you first arrive, but then they begin to strip it away little by little so that as you are kind of going through all of the paces that the cult wants you to go through, you're losing more and more of yourself. And I loved that. I just loved it as an overall metaphor for how cults work. This one just did it right. So, Midsummer gets my number 4. And Midsummer, I think, is actually playing. I, don't, I can't remember where Midsummer is playing. It's playing someplace. It's
I
playing on
believe
one
it's
of the big.
Amazon.
Is it on Amazon? Okay. I think it's also on. I'm almost positive that it's on Showtime too, because we were just at Showtime not that long ago, and I'm pretty sure I saw it there.
And I will watch it eventually.
It's hard. And it's also, dare I say, kind of long. It's not. It does not go by fast. It's 2.5 hours, um, but it's worth it. It's very worth it. And the more immersed you can be in the movie, the better the experience I think the movie is. So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with my next movie. So I feel like the two of them together make this really good pair. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll try to get through my next movie to make room for your uh, double feature.
My double feature. I'm
My
actually kind of surprised that you didn't see this movie.
I've been wanting to, but it's one of those where I'm not sure if it's something I should be watching like in the middle of the living room in the middle of the day,
Oh,
kids running
right.
around.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
because of that uncertainty, I've been holding off.
Yeah, that does make sense, I think.
All right, my number 3. I can't talk about it. So you're up
Yeah, why can't you talk about it?
because of the rules.
What are the rules?
Well, the first rule is we don't talk about it.
Well, do you think we could make a single exception? I mean,
All right.
I feel like, what if I give you some free soap?
You know what? I guess if you join, I'll be able to talk about it with you. You in?
See, there you go. Okay. Yeah, for the free soap, especially.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
My number 3 is Fight Club. What is Fight Club? Well, the name is it's there, right?
Kind of says it all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a club where people fight each other. Now, what's so culty about people wanting to fight? Well, if it were that simple, they really wouldn't make a movie about it, would they? As I think about all of the other underground fighting movies with little to no plot. Excuse me. Here I am disproving my own arguments all the time. Anyway, Fight Club is it's about a guy that's kind of, had enough of his life, wants a little excitement, meets this other guy, and they start fighting, and then other people start joining them in their fights, and it's all consensual. They beat each other up, but then those fights turn into like a straight up anti-consumerism movement. That's kind of Tyler's whole bag, and it all leads to let's say a big old explosive night. Because I know there are some of you out there that might not have seen Fight Club for whatever reason that may be, but you should. Fight Club is a tremendous film. I won't even give away, the special relationship that Edward Norton and Brad Pitt share in this film, other than just repeatedly punching each other in the face. It's quite the commentary on just what it is, almost to be an American at this point, where you have to just keep buying and buying. You have to do all of these things. Why? To live, to be alive. And these guys have found sort of a different way to feel alive, and that's through unarmed combat with each other. And like I said, the other motives, the other mission becomes more apparent as the film rolls on. And I'm just going to say Rob Paulson. It's quite the character. Best thing Meatloaf, I think, has ever done. But Fight Club, it's my number 3. These guys, they're dedicated to their cause so much so that they're willing to not only bleed for it, but break each other for it on a regular basis for fun,
for a treat.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it. I need to see it again. It's been
the soap actually matters. Like that.
That's how you wash
I mean,
your hands
it's an inside joke,
COVID.
but it's not an inside joke. Like it's an inside joke, but it's part of the movie.
Go on.
I was just saying the soap is part of the movie. That's just, I love that line. I love the line where he says, we get to sell this back to people. Like it's so surreal, but it's so like, yeah, that's exactly what we do. Yep.
Yeah. Guess I'm done chewing on the fat here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Oh boy. Okay. So as sort of my mid list or getting to the top of the list double feature, I chose the movie for my number 3 spot as Hereditary. And the reason that I say that this is kind of a double feature, Hereditary and Midsommar, is because they both deal with cults, but they are both sort of like the cult that is so personal as in like, it doesn't work unless you can buy completely into it. And Hereditary has a little bit more kind of supernatural, I don't know what the word is, but it has some more supernatural aspects to it. Midsommar is a little bit more straightforward, but Hereditary is one of those films that, like, you have to kind of see it 2 or 3 times before you really understand what's going on. I mean, on the face value of it, it's an entertaining film, and you can completely be blown away after you've seen it once. But watch it 2 or 3 times, and all of a sudden, things that you maybe didn't see the first time through become very creepily placed. And hats off, because Hereditary is just absolutely one of those kind of movies that is so compelling the second or third time that you watch it. And the other thing that I loved about Hereditary was it's not afraid, or it wasn't afraid. The movie itself wasn't afraid to tell the story of this sort of crazy amounts of suffering that people are going through, and the existential crisis of mourning that is so all consuming that anything can happen after that. It's like the mourning itself empties you out, allows you to be hollow, so that in that moment you can be filled up by what is coming. And I love that idea. I love the whole presentation. Hereditary, like Midsommar, is technically such a beautiful film to watch. It's almost like painful in some places, because the shadow work, the play on where things are supposed to be in a scene make it feel like it's almost a haunted house movie when it isn't, but that's what it feels like, and that's how atmospheric it feels. And it's absolutely just wonderful as a film. The cult aspect to Hereditary is it's generational. And so like I sigh because I don't want to say too much about it, because I really feel like this is another one of those movies where it is absolutely worth it to get to the end to see what's going on. But I mean, the title of the film is Hereditary. So I mean, obviously that there's something intergenerational going on. And as the story progresses, you begin to understand how things are falling into place, and what this sort of cult of this family is, what it consists of, what it's supposed to be, what the sigils are, and those kinds of things. It's actually really amazing, absolutely amazing. So I 100% uh, highly suggest this movie. And um, have you seen this movie, Josh? Did you
I
see
have not.
Hereditary? When you do see this movie, come back and talk to me and tell me what you think about the relationship between mother, daughter, and son are. Because I think that is, there's something so deep in those relationships, and as an overall metaphor for intergenerational trauma, this is one of, I think, the best depictions of it that I could think of. And it is cult. I mean, there is 100% a cult at the you got to get to the end of the movie, but there is 100% a cult happening. It's just happening in such a slow reveal, that it almost makes it feel, like I said, more atmospheric, like a haunted house movie, but very worth the watch.
Well, I will add it to the list.
Awesome.
I guess we're getting down to the nitty gritty, aren't we?
Yeah, top two now.
Top two. All right, my number two is one that we have mentioned on the show before for different reasons. And I'm going to tell you, it's an amazing movie. It is 2011's The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, I've used this one too.
There are a lot of things you can say about cults. Sometimes what they do is good. Sometimes it's not good. Okay, it's never really good. After all, they're a cult, right? Uh, the idea behind this cult, though, it maybe can in a way be interpreted as a good thing. After all, they are trying to save the world, right? But to do it, one, um, at the sacrifice of groups of young people is to be frowned upon, for sure. And then also to do it in such a contrived way, you know, it just seems weird that they have to kill these people in this particular way. It has to be look like a horror movie, essentially. I'm not really sure if that's trying to please. Anyway, so yeah, what it boils down to is there's a cabin in the woods, and these young people go to it, and they're all killed one by one. Wait, not all of them. After all, somebody has to survive for a bit. And that's when the big reveal happens. Everything's being controlled by the cult to appease the ancient ones. Because if the ancient ones aren't appeased, they'll come up and, destroy the world. I think I've given away too much as it is, but I will say this: it is an amazing movie, especially if you go in blind. Unfortunately, I kind of ruined that for a lot of people just now. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. There is so much to enjoy. So the effects are fun. They're awesome, and just because there's a cult, it doesn't give away everything. But just, I guess, keep that in the back of your mind. Not everything is what it seems, and enjoy the ride. Cabin in the Woods is my number two.
Excellent film. I totally love that film. And I really like the end of the world eldritchy kind of gods from below that definitely have some issues. Yeah, some big issues actually. Um. Okay. I also any movie, even briefly with Sigourney Weaver in it, is a win for me. I
Mhm.
love Sigourney Weaver. My number two movie is okay. This is a movie that I don't know if you are familiar with who Paul Thomas Anderson is.
I
Very
am.
famous director, right? You know who he is, right? He directed a movie in the 2000s. 2000, well, this was I think 2010, 2012, somewhere around there. And it is the story loosely, very loosely, on or about Scientology. And when I say loosely, I mean like it's not it's not about L. Ron Hubbard. Um, it but it specifically kind of is L. Ron Hubbard. Like it's like it deals with the same thing, you know, the past lives, um, the idea that that there's a process to go through, that you know there's that you can be reborn into different lives. Just yeah, it's interesting. The whole thing is very interesting. But what made this movie, I think, really good is there is this sort of relationship between um well, let's just say there is a relationship that happens here. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, this was one of the films that he did before he died. It's that he was like really excellent in. He plays a character named, he's basically, Philip Seymour Hoffman is the master. He is the person who is trying to start this entire new uh, movement. I guess that's the best way to say it. He thinks it's a movement. I think the film really sets it out that he is trying to found a religion. He just doesn't know how to say it. So so Seymour Hoffman's character is this man named Lancaster Dodd. And Dodd is like he sees things that he thinks other people can benefit from, but at the same time he's also really kind of milking the experience from his followers in a way that feels like, yeah, you know, this is like borderline emotional abuse of the people around you. Now, of course, they don't see that because, you know, when you're in a cult, that's not the kind of thing you see. You see the things that you want to see. It feels very positive, but it's the relationship between this character named Freddie Quell and Dodd that is sort of at the heart of anything of everything. And Quell is the character that Dodd is trying to indoctrinate, you know, make his sort of like number one disciple kind of thing. And I have to say that, you know, as a period piece for being post World War II, it really does capture a kind of, you know, both a a loss overall that everyone was feeling, and a need for some kind of levity, a need for levity and purpose. And this movie really gets to the heart of that. Like, this is exactly what you would imagine sort of the emotional state of the world post World War II to be like. So for that, he gets a lot of credit for that. But the again the cult aspect of it, if you don't know what Scientology is kind of all about, it might not make as much sense. But you know, it kind of builds on these ideas that the more processes that you go through, that's what the word they use in the film, basically the more enlightened you become. So and enlightened is not the right word because that's, you know, more of like a Buddhist word, but the more intellectually and religiously aware you can be. It's crazy. It's like it's hard for me to even describe. But when you watch the movie, you become very immersed in both the idea that he is trying to sell and why it is so difficult for Freddie to sort of extricate himself from it, because it's a dynamic relationship between him and Dodd. So, the character relationship is what really sells this movie, but everything around it is the beginnings, the first issuance of how a cult is truly formed and made. What is it about that personality? What is it about that, the aspect of it doesn't, because there isn't even a lot of, like, super hard charismatic stuff going on, as much as there is just capturing a moment in time when people needed hope, when people needed something to latch onto, and he was right there. He was able to present exactly what they needed to hear. um it's really, really a well done film. And also, I mean, you can't go wrong with Paul Thomas Anderson. Most of his films are absolutely stunning, even when, maybe you don't actually like the subject of the film. The films themselves have a technical excellence to them, which make them stand out. So, number two for me is The Master 2012. And this one I know that you can see on Showtime, because I believe that it's actually resident on Showtime right now.
And for those of you unaware, Showtime is also a part of Paramount Plus. So
Yes, yes, that's right.
2 ways to watch.
Sorry, I know that that one was kind of rambly too, but there's so much, like, there's a lot to say about that movie, but then there's also, like, yeah, it's really hard to sort of condense it, because there's so many little pieces going on. And the part about the cult that makes it so interesting is, like, well, why do people even join cults in the first place? What makes you a cult follower? And I feel like this movie does a really good job of breaking it down. you know it's not that you're a weak-willed person. It's not that, you are unintelligent. It's none of those things. It's something else. It's something else that is lacking, that the cult gives you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they did such a good job presenting it. So,
Well, I guess it's time, Jen. I guess it's time.
it's time. Drum roll, please. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, if you've been paying attention, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what my number one film is. Because it's the only crossover that we've had so far. My number one film is Red State, Kevin Smith. Now, I know for some reason it was much, much, much lower on Jen's list. And here I am putting it at my number one. And I can hear you're talking to your devices as you hear that it's my number one choice, and you're saying you only did that because it's directed by Kevin Smith, and you're
I
you're
have to
such a
admit,
Kevin
that
Smith
did come into
fanboy.
my head. Yeah, that did actually enter my mind.
Well, you couldn't be further from being wrong because
Oh.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, Kevin Smith's going to get my number one spot. Why? Because he made my favorite cult movie, if you will. Now, the thing about the cult in Red State, I think, is makes it worthy of the number one, is because it is a legit threat. This isn't just some out of nowhere supernatural occult thing. No, this is a sort of inaccurate portrayal of things that have and are happening um, here in the U.S. That's why it is so scary. Not the other the other movies on the list. Yes, they're tremendous cults. Absolutely wonderful cults. Some say the best cults. but it's just the groundedness of this particular one, sort of based on I'd say a couple of different groups. Uh, Westboro immediately springs to mind with their protesting group of lawyers. So they were involved in a sort of a squabble, an online squabble with Kevin Smith. You know, of all people to get into an online feud, Kevin Smith versus the Westboro Baptist Church. That was quite the time to be alive. I'll tell you what. But mixing it in with, you know, like the scenario from Waco a bit, and you know, kind of tying things together like that is it works so well because, like I said, it's believable because it happens. And not to go off on some sort of, you know, this is the world we live in kind of tirade, but there are certain sectors of the general public right now that have belief systems in place that could very easily make situations like this even more uh, prevalent in society today, because they are using not ancient ritualistic beliefs in the sense of you know, Kalima and you know, the appeasing the ancient ones in Cabin in the Woods. No, they're basing it on modern day religions, the current practice of Christianity. And no, I'm not saying, you know, Christians do this. No, I'm not going to throw an entire religion under the bus like that. That would just not be, that would not be correct. What I am going to say though is that people will take their beliefs to these kinds of extremes in real life, whether they're, you know, bombing clinics or setting fire to them or attacking members of a marginalized community and do it in the name of whatever God they believe in. These things can happen. These things do happen. Maybe not as collectively as Kevin Smith portrayed them in Red State, and maybe not as what's the word I'm looking for? Because they literally set a trap for these kids. That was kind of the point. Maybe not as predatorily. Is that a word? I don't know. But that's what makes Red State a scary cult. Well, Red State's the movie, but that's what makes the cult in Red State so scary, because they well, the cult's never considered. I'm sorry, I'm arguing with myself here, because in a lot of people's eyes, they might not be considered a cult. They just might be considered your Uncle Ned. You know, it's these situations that I think more people need to be aware of, and you know, just like I said, just be aware and watch Red State, because it's a good, really good movie. That's my number one. Sorry about the tirade.
I'm not surprised that that's your number one. First, almost anything with Kevin Smith is basically, if it fits into the genre of our list, it will be on your list and probably in the top 5. I have
Yes.
learned that from you, or learned that about you. Okay, my number one movie is a movie that few people have probably heard of. But and it didn't get great reviews, but you know what? I don't care. It's absolutely wonderful as a movie, and especially as a cult movie. It is from 2016 and it's called The Void. Now, The Void is kind of it's Lovecraftian in nature. It's got a lot of body horror in it. It is definitely not the softer telling of cult like even Midsummer or Hereditary, which are terrifying enough. But The Void deals with a true Lovecraftian monster that is trying to be born into this world. And there's a lot of crazy things that happen sort of plot wise before we get to the point where we realize, hey, this is what's happening and here's why it's happening. And a lot of it is, cryptic symbols and a lot of um, icons that you kind of have to get through. I see why people didn't like this movie. It is definitely a bit long and rambly, much like some of my presentations for tonight. But it's worth it, I think, to watch it if you want something that is a really different kind of cult film where the cult itself is basically something so out of this world, so kind of crazy that it takes you out of time and space. Quite literally, The Void takes you out of time and space. It's a very interesting idea. It is kind of based a little bit on, and I didn't even know this until I had gone to look up the film again. Apparently, the idea for The Void came from the Silent Hill um, brethren. So there is something, or the Order, I'm sorry, the other one, not the Brethren, the Order. So there is something kind of interesting, I think, at least from my perspective, about why this movie resonated with me so much. But unlike Silent Hill, The Void is truly Lovecraftian. Silent Hill is not Lovecraftian at all. Um, and for that, it kind of gets the my top spot because I feel like that's the only good way to tell a Lovecraftian story. You have to tell it almost within the confines of a cult because most Lovecraftian monsters need people. They need that either the prayers or the wishes or the something that feeds them. It gives them power. A little bit sort of like Cabin in the Woods, but with a totally different twist. I really recommend this film, but I don't recommend that you watch this film if you're not sort of in a good state of mind because it does really play with it plays with some very subverted tropes, which I feel like you kind of have to be in a good state of mind to be in. I mean, there's a lot of really dark things that happen throughout this film. And so I don't suggest that people watch it as kind of like light fare or, it is definitely full on horror and very psychologically intense. So my number one, The Void from 2016.
Well, I can't say that I've seen it, but I'm looking at this artwork here, and it looks intriguing as all get out.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The last 15 minutes of this film are like it's kind of like somebody was like, okay, well we've got 15 minutes of film to kind of get everything put in. How are we going to do this in the most intense way possible? And they definitely rose to the occasion because the last 15 minutes of this film are just insane. Very worth
Let's
it.
seeing if let's see. I got to do a lot of copy and pasting and put this here, put this over here. See if I can find out. It's on Tubi, so yeah, I'll be able to check it out.
Yeah, this is it's also on Crackle if you get Crackle. Crackle's a free movie service and it's super super good.
All right, I like the little tagline here. There is a hell. This is worse.
Uh, I mean, honestly, the stuff that these people go through is like, at the same time that it also, like, you start believing certain things, like you believe certain things in the fictional world that they're saying, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, no, that's not what's happening. And by the time you realize what's really happening, it really kind of hits you in the gut. So, yeah. I loved this movie. I mean, it definitely occupies my number one position for a cult movie for a good reason, a really good reason.
All right. Well, we made it through our lists.
Yay!
It's been a minute, but we remembered how to do it, and we did it in a timely fashion. Well, for us, a timely fashion.
Yeah, definitely for us in a timely fashion.
It's still today.
Hey, that's exciting.
So, let's see. What do we do next? We run down our
List
list,
recap?
and then
Yeah.
I give us the homework for next week.
Exactly.
All right. So, how about you give us your list?
All right. My list, number 10, The Apostle. Or I think it's actually not The Apostle, I think it's just Apostle. Number 9, The Seventh Victim. Number 8, Silent Hill. First one. Number 7, The City of the Dead. Number 6, Peter Jackson's King Kong. Number 5, Red State by Kevin Smith. Number 4, number 4, Midsummer. Number 3, Hereditary. Number 2, The Master. And number 1, The Void.
Another excellent list worthy of checking out from Jen. My list begins with number 10, Dragnet. Number 9, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Number 8, Cobra. Number 7, The Menu. Number 6, Batman Begins. Number 5, The Babysitter. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Number 3, Fight Club. And number 2, The Cabin in the Woods. Number 1, of course, Red State. And that is my 10-1. Jen, you want to know what homework is for next week?
Good list. Yes, please. What is our homework for this coming week?
It's it took me a while to come up with this because, again, if we'd been on the air last week, we would have kind of thing. We probably
something
have the same
different.
Topic. But in honor of the big holiday for the weekend, Easter, for those unaware, I decided that our next list should be movies that feature a character that come back from the dead. The resurrection episode.
Nice. Oh, I just watched one last night. Oh my god. Okay. All right.
You like that?
So you got to be all dead, right? Not just like a little dead.
Right. It can't be a near-death experience. That's a cop-out.
According to Miracle Max, there is a difference between being all dead and a little dead.
There is, yes.
So all dead, and then you come back to life. Is any special caveats on that? Like any, do you have to come back? Like, is there anything special about coming back?
Well, I will say you should come back in, at the very least, the same condition you left.
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Okay.
And I just want to make sure that we're not creating another reason to have a zombie list.
So Frankenstein is kind of out there then, since he's more of a cobbled together person.
Yeah, it's not so much a person coming back to life as much as uh, a hodgepodge of people.
Yeah, a
Um,
cobbled together
yeah.
person.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's you've seen it, I'm sure, in a bunch of movies where, whether it's the hero or the friend of the hero or something, and they're like, "Oh, I'm dead. No, I'm on the other side, but my mission's not done." Whoop, that kind of thing.
Yes, all dogs go to heaven. Yes.
So it has to have um, a resurrection, a Jesus moment,
All
if you
right.
will, where
I
everyone's like,
think we
"He's
can handle
dead."
that.
I think.
We'll
I
just
think.
we'll just insert we'll just insert a bunch of McCoy saying he's dead, Jim.
Yeah, just a bunch of Star Trek movies. He's dead.
I
Wait,
think this would work.
I'm a terrible
Wait,
doctor.
I was wrong. I'm a scientist. Yeah, okay. I get it. All right. I think I can come up with a pretty good list.
I think so too. And I have like a handful that are just jumping out at me immediately. One of them might have just been teased. Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
I feel like this could be an interesting list on it for a number of different reasons. Yeah, and especially, you know my proclivity for horror films. So, uh yeah, I'm pretty sure I can come up with several.
As long as you can come up with 10, we're good.
I think I should be able to come up with 10. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that, I could probably actually come up with 30, but well, I'll keep it to 10.
Yeah, 10 is 10's good. And quite
Just so
frankly,
the show
I'm
doesn't last, what, 6 hours instead of two.
you're like, well, I couldn't decide. So 10A is this.
Subset 3, bullet point 4. Yeah, we could do that. I won't make you
Okay.
sit through that, I promise.
I'm kind of proud of myself for that one. Tying it to a
Yeah, good
major
job.
holiday, and yeah. But speaking of major holidays, usually a time for you know family, I guess. And what do families do? They gather around the table for a meal. But personally, I won't eat anything unless it has some sort of you know film or television theme to it. So where can I get recipes for that specific
Oh
thing?
boy. So this is a tough one because I don't even think I have any Easter. Uh, I
Well, just
should.
in
This
general,
should
recipes.
this should definitely be a wake up call. I need to get some. We Yeah, okay. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that this year. Okay. So hey, if you want a recipe that ties into a film, even if it's not a resurrection film or a cult film or whatever, hey, join me over at moviesandmeals.com. You'll find something. The Cult of Candyman is over there. Didn't even mention that one. Yeah, there's always something to find over there. There's cool movies that tie in with all kinds of recipes, drinks, and desserts. Rosemary's Baby is another great cult movie, and that definitely has a recipe at Movies and Meals. So join me over there. And also, join me hopefully this week on Tuesday for Storyteller Power Hour, where hopefully we will finally get episode 2 off the ground. So join me for that on Tuesdays at 8:30 Eastern Time. How about you, Josh?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask.
I
You can
wasn't going to, but then I was like, yeah, no, I better ask.
good instincts. If you want to find out more about me and the things that I do, you can always go to whatgomedia.com. That's where you find all of the appropriate links to the social medias and whatnots, where you go give all the likes and the comments and things like that. For instance, wherever you're watching this from, you go to the social media sites, say Facebook, and you see this show posted there, maybe you'll want to comment on our list tonight and tell me what I got wrong and praise Jen for everything she got right. That's the way it usually goes. But if you feel like, hey, I like these guys, let me put a little something in the coffers for them. Yeah, there's a Patreon, but that would involve me like doing stuff. And quite frankly, I would much rather if you were willing to, spend a few ducats, uh, head to the merchandise store available at wadcomedia.com, where you can find a pretty nifty 10-1 shirt, as well as, one of my favorite designs that's just full of whimsicality. Yeah, that one's never going away. So, I just want you to have something tangible, something a little more tangible. If you feel the urge to contribute a few pennies to our tip jar, get a shirt, get a cup, have something you can hold in your hand. But as far as other things, Friday nights, broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, just like this show. It's the Wadcast, the Writers, Actors, Directors podcast, where Brandon, the co-host, located in Los Angeles, where the new World cult is based. They sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Anyway, it's a Writers, Actors, Directors podcast where we talk about all things, associated with that. Usually involves, talking about movies and TV, and occasionally we have a guest from the old entertainment industry and have a chat about who they are and how they got into the biz. So that's the Wadcast. We're trying to think of something else to plug. I don't know. Letterboxd. Go to Letterboxd, give us money, and have fun looking up all those movies that you watched. Jen, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No. This was a great list. Thanks everybody for listening. I really had a good time with it, but I think that next week will be even more fun, if you will. It's going to be I all of a sudden just had these like maniacal thoughts about movies that will work so well for next week's list. So definitely one to tune in for.
And to think I was going to go with an egg-themed list.
That also would have been interesting, but not as interesting as this one.
Crushing it. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us here tonight for 10-1, the internet's favorite movie-based list podcast. Gotta have a shirt that says that soon. Once again, thank you for joining us. I'm Josh. That lady over there, that's Jen. And I guess the only thing left to say is say goodnight, Jen.
Good night, Jen.